Hi there, and welcome to week 6 of Seed Starting Saturday here on our flower farm, the Gardener's Workshop Farm. My name is Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I'm glad you've decided to kind of walk along with us and have the look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. First, I need to tell you that today we have no power. So I'm standing in a room that's well lit by the outdoor light. We just had a transformer blow. So we're going to take advantage of that, and it actually blew about an hour and a half ago. You're going to see how the plants have already started to bend because they don't have light. But before we get started, if you haven't already received our recent catalog, there's a place on our website where you can request that. We send them out about once a month, once we get enough addresses. And so get your name on the list, and then you'll get one every year. And I wanted to highlight that what's going to be coming soon is our new video downloadable series. I'm going to be doing one for the Organic Home Gardener. It'll be 6 different 30-minute downloads, carrying you through how to get started and what to do, as well as our Flower Farmer series, which will be for anybody that thinks they want to get farming, how to get started, and how to do it with the most profit from the beginning. So look forward to them coming along. And remember that down below this video, there's a place for you to post your comments and questions. And I'm doing my best to work through and answer everybody's questions. And I'm hoping that today's video is going to answer a lot of those questions, because that's what I'm trying to address today. So I have my little list after I went through and read some. So the first thing I want to talk about today is I have a lot of people wondering, why even use the small blocker when they might need to use the large blocker? Also, why not just skip the small blocker? Well, this is the reason why we always choose to use the small blocker in place of the big one. First off, we'll use a little prop here to show you. So this is the Home Gardener size tray. This is a 5x7 little meat tray, foam tray, and this holds 40 of those small blocks. That's what this is. Well, if you use the large blocker, which is the 2-inch large blocker, only 8 of those blocks would fit on this tray. The bag of soil, the blocking mix, the ready-made mix, or the recipe that you use, which makes about 20 cups of soil product, that bag will make about 600 of these little small blocks, but it only makes 32 of the big blocks. Are you getting my picture? It is so much more efficient to use the small block whenever is possible. And the next question people have is, do we pot these small blocks up into the 2-inch block? And in fact, we do not, unless something extraordinary happens that we can't plant on time. So these are the stock plants that we've been following along. All their brothers and sisters have been planted out in the garden. You saw them last week. This is my traveling tray. These guys have been going around to lectures with me. And so they will be planted after this video is shot. So they're the perfect size to be planted. But if I had started them too early and they couldn't be planted now, and they continued to grow for 3 or 4 more weeks in this block, you better believe they'd have to be potted up to the 2-inch block. But that's the whole point. We try to start the seedlings so they can be planted out in the garden at the perfect size, and it's all about timing. So for instance, let's take zinnias and sunflowers. Those are two really, a lot of people grow them. Well, when we grow zinnias, we start them in the small block, but we plan to plant them out when they're only 2 to 3 weeks old. None of that 4 to 6 weeks like a lot of people do in other methods. So you have to plan. Sunflowers are the same way. They're planted out in the garden when they're only 2 to 3 weeks old. A tomato, we can usually count on about 4 to 5 weeks. The slower of the growth of a plant, the little bit longer time it needs. But we would never leave something in a small block for 5 to 6 weeks. So it's all about timing, and that's why we always choose to use the small block. Not to mention, it's easier to keep a small block of soil evenly warm and evenly moist. When you put a little seed on the top of that big 2-inch block, the surface of that block is typically a very different state than the bottom of the block. The bottom might be wet, might be cold, or it might be warm. The surface may be dry and cold. So it's just, we have found it to be a whole lot easier. So that's why we always choose to use the small block. And the other thing I wanted to just mention was that blocking mix matters. And there's actually, this is why I think it's so important for everybody to get a catalog. Our catalog's full of a lot of information in addition to products. It says here, it's all about the blocking mix. And it's true. Any mix will make the blocks. And any mix can provide the nutrients that the plants need. It's all about how the mix binds together that holds up over the long haul. We'll look at this little tray again. Now, you have to understand this little tray has traveled. It's been passed around groups of people that are picking them up, and I did just water them, so they're a little wet. If this was not blocking mix and it was a classic potting soil mix, potting soil mix is made to be crumbly. You wouldn't be able to pick this block up and hold it without it falling apart. So it's not really that you can't make blocks out of potting mix. It's how the blocks hold up over the time. So blocking mix does really matter. And we already talked a little bit about starting the timing. I always, after years of getting myself into a pickle, because weather never cooperates. I mean, I understand that. I'm a farmer. We have had thousands and thousands and thousands of seedlings that needed to be planted 3 days ago, and the weather's not going to allow it to happen, we know, for at least a week or two, let's just say. I understand that pain. Because of that, I tend to start my seeds a little bit on the later side rather than the early side, because that way I'd rather have to hold off planting a couple of days because they aren't quite big enough than to stand and watch them getting bigger and leggier and unhealthy, waiting for the weather to cooperate. So we always veer on the side of later than earlier. So the other thing is, I know we spoke about it a couple weeks ago, to keep up with, is I make Monday my feeding day, and I just add that organic fertilizer, which is, we just use Neptune's Harvest, which we love. Be sure and shake these bottles good before you use them, because this stuff really separates, and just follow the instructions. And so I add this to my watering can each Monday, so when I water, I'm also feeding. And so I already mentioned that the power's off here. And I want you to look at how much the plants have already bent because they've lost their light source. And this explains why light is so important. Look at this kale. I'm going to tilt this down. I don't know if y'all can get the full effect of this or not. Maybe if I turn it sideways. You can see how these are all leaning towards the light of the window. So light is really important, which brings me to something else I forgot to talk about, is I've had questions, because people, you can see the distance between this light and these plants, and how different that is between this light and these plants. This is because those are two different types of bulbs. The ones that have the great space, are T5 bulbs. That's new technology. They're supposed to be more energy efficient, and they are definitely more expensive lights. However, because of the nature of the way that they work, they get really hot. So if I were to have a shelf up here for me as a farmer so I can have more shelves, it would cook my seedlings. So we actually had to lose every other shelf. I bought these not knowing that. The lights I prefer are T12 light bulbs, and these are T12 fixtures. And those go right on top of the seedling, like just an inch or two above the canopy of the seedlings. And this allows you to make the most out of your space. So, of course, the lights aren't on because our power's off, but that is the big difference. And y'all are very good at observing. I've got lots of questions about what's the difference between these and these, and that is simply the difference. So my preference is T12s, and I also want to say that we have just added several new products to our line for flower farm or just small farmers and for home gardeners that just literally want to grow more stuff. So what we've added to our website is a couple of things. One of them is, this is the heat mat that we've always sold. This holds 160 small blocks. We've just added the 20 by 48, which is like 4 times bigger than this. So if you need to be able to start 600 soil blocks at one time, that may be for you, and we've had a lot of requests for that, so that you can find that on our website. It's on the same product page as the heat mat, as well as we've added bulk lengths of netting. This is the support netting that's 3 foot wide. It's now available in 328 feet. So we're trying to kind of fill this niche that you guys are asking for, as well as we've added 2 new grow lights to our lineup. One of them is the same style light as this, meaning it's 48 inches long. It has 4 bulbs, so it covers an entire shelf, but it's got T12 light fixtures in it, and it hangs, so you can use it from a shelf really easy. And then we also added a tabletop version of that same light. So you can start, like, I think it's 650 small blocked plants and support them in that space of, I think it's 20 by 48 inches. So you can really grow a lot. So we're trying to kind of fill those requests that people are sending in. So visit our website to check those out. And the last thing I want to do today is to show you that Bupleurum. You may have remembered we start Bupleurum in plug trays because Bupleurum needs darkness to germinate. However, the seed really likes to have a lot of oxygen. So what we do is we use plug trays. We sow the seeds on the surface, and then we just take an empty tray and lay it on top of that tray to create darkness. But because there's holes in the tray, they still get a lot of oxygen. And then we literally just put them on a shelf here in the room on the bottom and ignore them for about 10 days. And I just uncovered them. And so look at all the Bupleurum that has germinated, and it's still, there's lots of little babies cracking through. So there is certainly uses for plug trays. We use it for special stuff, and this is one of them. So this is a great way to germinate Bupleurum. And so that's going to kind of wrap us up for our Seed Starting Saturday. So this is the last week. I know that there's going to be a lot of you saying shucks right now, but we have a lot of new stuff coming up, and we've got to get busy working on those series about home organic gardening, and then the Flower Farmer series. And I'm also heading out on the lecture circuit. So, and of course, I'm working on a new book. So we'll be back, and please like, share, and comment on this. Share it with your friends. And don't forget that if you haven't already done so, my book, Cool Flowers, which is about the cool season flowers, also applies to cool season vegetables. We have a whole 12-week or 12 video studies available on our website. So sign up for our newsletter. Please share our educational stuff with your friends and organizations that you're a member of. We really, really appreciate that. And we'll see you back here real soon when we're back in the garden.